They could, but there's also some concern by some conservatives, fiscal conservatives, that states would just be doing more spending than they might normally do because they think this is coming.
Yeah, exactly. Although a lot of those governors are pretty busy just fighting the coronavirus. I'm not sure if they've got time to figure out how to spend a lot of extra money. Okay, thank you so much, Billy. Really great to have you with us. That's Bloomberg's Billy Hauser reports on the Congress for us. Coming up, taking advantage of the less fortunate in a time of crisis. We talk with Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro about what he's doing to protect his citizens in the state of Pennsylvania. It's sad to say that some people will try to take advantage of anything they can. That's coming up on Balance of Power on Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. U.S. stocks are mixed, but oil is plunging. U.S. oil producers have not cut productions to match the drop in demand, and so the nation's oil storage tanks are filling to the brim. West Texas Intermediate crude falling below $10 a barrel. The Dow is down 200 points, S&P dropping 11, but the Nasdaq is up 26 points. United Airlines expects to record a $2 billion loss in the first quarter. The global spread of the coronavirus essentially halted air travel, causing sales to plummet. There's speculation that the three biggest airlines may cut more than 100,000 jobs. And Congress appears to be nearing an agreement to put as much as $500 billion into a new loan program intended to keep small businesses afloat until the coronavirus pandemic ends. Donna Wilson, Bloomberg Radio.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
What if you could keep the top economic experts in a conference room next to your office without having to feed them?
Do we need better optics? Do we need some substance? Do CEOs care about ESG?
We have seen quite a lot of stimulus pumped into the system already.
It's the biggest warning yet about the financial risks of climate change.
Now there are more ways to hear us. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and at BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Are you in?
I can find and fund my car, from a Mini to a Jaguar.
Feel good car buying from findandfundmycar.com is the place where you can find quality used cars from trusted dealers rated by you, and where you can fund your car with finance to fit your budget. It's feel good car buying all in one place.
Shouldn't be a carry on, choose findandfundmycar.com.
Oh, just there, Dave. Smashing. Great. Really? Night, Steve.
Yeah, see ya.
Built to take the big knocks. Samsung rugged devices. Easy to use, hard to break. Explore the Samsung Rugged range.
Dating can be tricky, especially when you can't meet face-to-face. So it's time to get creative with the easy way to replace physical dates, Video Call from Bumble, the dating app where women make the first move. Here's Anna Williamson and Tom Reed-Wilson with some tips on connecting online.
It's a bit harder to flirt with limited body language, but nothing beats a smile and some eye contact to show them you're interested.
And have an activity plan for your date. This will help break the ice.
Download Bumble today.
Okay, people, I've got the daily checklist. Who today has eaten dinner for breakfast? Tick. Started a chore you'll never finish? Tick. Done a conference call in your pajamas? Tick. Here's another for your list. BritBox. Streaming the BBC, ITV, Channel 5, and now Channel 4. All in one place and ad-free. So add BritBox to your list and get a 30-day free trial of the biggest box of British box sets. Search BritBox free trial. Tick. Biggest compared to other SVOD providers. Auto renews at $5.99 a month unless cancelled. T's and C's apply.
Where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care. About each other. About our planet. about creating a better world for everyone and becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
This is a message from the government. Coronavirus is a national emergency, life-threatening for people of all ages everywhere in the UK. To help save lives, stay home. Only go outside for food, health reasons, daily exercise or to work, but only if you cannot work from home. Stay home. Anyone can get it and anyone can spread it. Coronavirus. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
From barbers to dog groomers, at Starling Bank, we'll help you keep your business off the ground. With no monthly fees to weigh you down. Your business is ready for takeoff. Starling Bank, helping business fly.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Balance of Power with David Weston.
Coming up on Balance of Power, Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro is here to tell us what his state is doing to protect its citizens from fraud and other abuse during this time of crisis. But first, let's get a market check with Charlie Pellet.
All right. I thank you very much, David Weston. Just want to begin with a couple of headlines on the Bloomberg. Number of new COVID-19 cases in Texas has dropped 19% from Sunday to 535 today. That according to state officials. And from France, word that the number of corona deaths has risen by 547 to 20,265. Stocks falling from a 6-week high, investors on edge as oil plunges to unprecedented levels, and a spate of corporate earnings are on tap. S&P 500 index halting a 2-day gain. Dow Jones Industrial Average now lower by more than 1%. We've got the Dow down 1.3%. That is a drop of 310 points. The S&P is down 24, a drop there of 0.8%. Nasdaq down 11, a decline there of 0.1%. 10-year up 230 seconds. The yield right now 0.63%. Gold up by 0.8%, $16.95 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude, looking at a quote on the Bloomberg here, $1.74 a barrel, down 89%. We've got the Dow, the S&P, Nasdaq all declining. Another Federal Reserve report is signaling that America's longest economic expansion has collapsed. And with that story, here's Bloomberg's Vinny Del Giudice.
The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago reports its national economic barometer dropped in March to a level that indicates the country has tumbled in a recession. Indicators on production and employment highlight the severe impact of the coronavirus. The 3-month average dropped to the lowest since the last recession in 2009. Vinny Del Giudice, Bloomberg Radio. United Airlines Holdings tumbled after the company said it expected to record a $2.1 billion loss in the first quarter as the coronavirus outbreak all but erased air travel demand in March. UAL down now by 3.8% among some of the other airline names. American down 4.4%. Delta is down 2.1%. Southwest Airlines actually having an up day, higher by 0.1%. Mandatory store closures in the U.S. sparked a catastrophic drop in retail sales in March, and Forrester Research says this will worsen in April. Forrester says more than $150 billion in U.S. retail sales could disappear in April compared to the same month in 2019. Among some of the retail names today, we are seeing shares of Macy's trade lower. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thanks so much, Charlie. The coronavirus crisis has affected us all, but none more than those less fortunate, whether it's the need for cash to pay the bills or the need to find some new way to protect themselves from their loved ones. and their loved ones. Crises like this can breed desperation, which sadly creates opportunity for the unscrupulous. We welcome now Josh Shapiro. He's Attorney General for the state of Pennsylvania. So, Mr. Attorney General, thank you so much for joining us. Give us a sense of what you have seen so far in Pennsylvania. We've heard various accounts in other states of people, for example, trying to get a hold of those $1,200 checks from people.
Well, we've seen scams, we've seen price gouging, we've seen a lot of negative behavior, but most of all, we've seen Pennsylvanians come together to try to do the right thing to stem the tide of this crisis. In order to best protect consumers and protect Pennsylvanians, we've taken a number of concrete steps in the Attorney General's office. I know other AGs have done this as well. We set up immediately a hotline to deal with price gouging, and we received 4,279 price gouging complaints basically in the last month, and we followed up on every single one of them. We have a special hotline for scams, and I set up a partnership with the federal government, with the United States Attorney in the Western District of Pennsylvania, to use some of their cyber expertise to really dig deep on these scams. And we're seeing scams really in a few areas. Number one, around the stimulus checks, people trying to get hold of those. And number two, we're seeing it uniquely around filing for unemployment compensation here in Pennsylvania. We've lost a fifth of our workforce in just the last 3 weeks, and there's one place to go to file for unemployment on the state website, and instead people are setting up other links to take you to what seems to be a place to file for unemployment, and unfortunately they're scams. They're taking advantage of people when they're really, really struggling. So those are some of the bad things we've seen, but we've also seen a lot of good and partnered with the private sector to better protect consumers.
So go back for just a moment, if you would. When you talk about things like a fake unemployment insurance application, do they ask people for money in order to expedite their unemployment insurance claim? I mean, how do you get money from that if you're scamming people?
Great question. So really what's happening here is the scammers are trying to get to your personal information, bank account, a credit card, something like that. And so if they're able to get your bank account information by suggesting that, hey, if you register with us, we'll get you your unemployment check more quickly, that has a way of, taking advantage of people when they're very desperate, and understandably so. And then, being able to get in their bank account and take money away from them there.
Yeah, and when you talk about the over 4,000 complaints of potential price gouging here, in your experience, how many of them panned out? I mean, I assume sometimes people complain about price gouging when it's not price gouging.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, price gouging has a specific legal definition of being, an unconscionably excessive price, which is 20% higher than what the cost was in the week leading up to the crisis. But here's the thing. I tell all Pennsylvanians, I don't want you to do math, and I don't want you to worry about being a lawyer. You'll kind of know it when you see it. And so we encourage people to reach out. And what my approach is look, rather than getting into a protracted legal battle, if we can avoid that, let's avoid that and just help consumers. So we get on the phone right away with the merchants. And look, sometimes the merchants have a very good explanation, and that's the end of it. Most of the time when they are doing something wrong, they'll change their behavior because they know we're watching. And there have been some instances where they've been unwilling to change their behavior. And in fact, on 310 occasions, we've sent out cease and desist letters, basically a legal way of telling them to cut it out. And then they do. And so that's the process that we follow and the approach we take. And, we think it's working to protect the good people of Pennsylvania.
Normally you have the full weight of the law that you can invoke. You can go into court, things like that. It must be difficult to go into court these days. Does that limit your law enforcement capability?
It doesn't on this. Again, we have pretty good power when it comes to going after price gouging, and it's working. I mean, just getting to the phase of sending out a cease and desist letter is enough to get them to cut it out. Look, we have a few egregious examples where you've got a pharmacy, actually not too far from where I live, just outside Philadelphia, where a $2 or $3 mask was selling for $49.99, where a small package of toilet paper was selling for almost $50. But these things are brought to our attention, and we battle back against the merchant, and they cut it out. One of the interesting things we've also seen, and we've been really aggressive on this, is the the small mom and pop retailers saying, well, wait a second, I'm being price gouged by the wholesaler or distributor. And in fact, our laws allow me to go after the wholesaler or distributor as well. And that's a particularly effective thing to do because obviously they're distributing to not just the one mom and pop store on the corner, but many. And so it's allowing us to take a broader swath of the price gouging and get it out of the community and better protect consumers.
This is all on the financial side, as it were, which is terribly important. But what about on the health side? Do we have instances where people have sort of fake remedies, fake treatments, or even vaccines that they're trying to sell?
We've seen a few things on there. Number one, yes, we've seen people sort of hawking these fake treatments. And that's a scam, and it's largely targeting older Pennsylvanians. Second, and this was more prevalent in the first couple of weeks where you really couldn't get a test, where it's extremely difficult to get a test. People saying, here, we'll test you, we'll get you immediate results, and charging you hundreds and hundreds of dollars for that. And then finally, we've seen in some of the nursing homes, we've seen some scams involving, elderly folks there, and we've worked to address that as well. So we're working real hard on all fronts to protect Pennsylvania.
Just in the last few seconds we have here, what about the nursing homes? Because we're seeing it in New Jersey now. Is this a scandal in the making?
No, I think what we need to do is pay attention to the data coming out of these nursing homes and move more quickly. When people in nursing homes have fevers and are presenting themselves with these things, we need to act swiftly, and we need to make sure that the individuals in charge of these nursing homes aren't covering it up, that they're being honest with regulators, and that'll help us keep people safe.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's Josh Shapiro. He's Attorney General for the state of Pennsylvania. Coming up, we're going to talk about oil, which collapsed today, with Dan Pickering of Pickering Energy Partners. That's coming up next on Balance of Power Bloomberg Radio.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong. Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing for a highly personalized experience? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's fast-paced environment, where the only constants are change and volatility, you need a prime broker who's both steady and agile, focused on supporting your needs so that you can focus on growing your business and producing results. Exceptional client service and advocating for our clients is at the core of what we do. Our award-winning high-touch team is just one of the benefits of working with BNY Mellon. We help alternative investment managers create great experiences for their clients. Whether it's customized financing, securities lending solutions, platform access, or outsourced trading, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and dedicated to meeting your evolving demands.
To learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers, visit Pershing.com. Pershing, LLC. Member FINRA, NYSE.
Oh, just there, Dave. Smashing. Great. Really? Night, Steve.
Yeah, see ya. Built to take the big knocks. Samsung rugged devices. Easy to use, hard to break. Explore the Samsung rugged range.
Okay, people, I've got the daily checklist. Who today has eaten dinner for breakfast? Tick. Started a chore you'll never finish? Tick. Done a conference call in your pajamas? Tick. Here's another for your list. BritBox. Streaming the BBC, ITV, Channel 5, and now Channel 4. All in one place. ad-free. So add BritBox to your list and get a 30-day free trial of the biggest box of British box sets. Search BritBox free trial. Tick. Biggest compared to other SVOD providers. Auto renews at $5.99 a month unless cancelled. T's and C's apply.
Typical Danny. Yesterday was just one of those days. I was running late to dinner, so I had to do my makeup on the bus. But my favourite shirt got ruined when I spilt my foundation all over it. What a mare. But no worries. Just one wash and my clothes will smell perf with Surf. Surf gives you long-lasting fragrance with natural essential oils. Find your fragrance in Surf's laundry range.
Hiya, it's Mel B. I'm just calling to say whether you're searching for a babe, a boo, or a bit of fun, there's one B you can always rely on. Badoo, the dating app which matches you with people based on your interests. Now more than ever, we want to be connected. You're more than just a photo, so be your true self and connect with a like-minded community. There's a new B in town. Download the Badoo app today. Badoo, date honestly.
When we're stuck indoors all day, we might find our energy bills creeping up uninvited. The cheeky rascals. And none of us need that right now. But by simply switching your energy with Money Supermarket, you could save £280 on your bills. It's just one small step towards money calm. Money Supermarket.
Get your MLB fix with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Fill your seventh inning stretch with the Ringer MLB Show.
I just can't get over it. It's like, oh, well, Jeter Downs. Didn't realize he was a top. Like, my dad is drinking the Kool-Aid on this. He's like, of course. Mookie was going to leave. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know that.
Slide into second with the Starting Nine podcast.
Nolan Arenado slides right into the top spot for a favorite baseball player. Active in the league right now. It is a pleasure to be sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is we've been waiting a long time for this. We actually, in terms of like active
round the bases with the Statcast podcast.
Ways of going about it. I picked third, so in some ways it made it easier for me. Mike, just to go over the first couple of picks. Mike took Barry Bonds, who I think was kind of the obvious guy to take number one. Not only
catch these and more MLB podcasts right here on TuneIn. Want to know a great way to discover the latest and greatest sports audio on TuneIn? It's easy. Just make sure push notifications are enabled on your phone to receive recommendations of sports talk radio and podcasts, along with important breaking news updates.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ are all declining. Stocks pulling back from a 6-week high. Investors on edge as oil plunges to unprecedented levels, and a spate of corporate earnings are on tap. West Texas Intermediate crude, looking at the quote on the Bloomberg now, $1.40 a barrel, down 92%. We've got the Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ just turning higher, up now by a point on NASDAQ. S&P is down 20, a drop there of 0.7%. Dow down 283, a drop there of 1.2%. So oil lower primarily because the end of the May contract forces physical receipt at a time when storage capacity is low. Gold up 0.6%, $16.93 the ounce. The 10-year up 1/32 with a yield now of 0.63%. Recapping, stocks lower, S&P down 20, down 0.7%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Balance of power continues. And once again, here's your host, David Weston.
Thank you so much, Charlie Pellet. From New York, this is Balance of Power. I'm David Weston. As Charlie just told us, the price of West Texas crude has fallen below $2 a barrel, 92% today. That's the sharpest drop, of course, in the modern era, as excess production runs into dwindling storage capacity, which runs into futures contracts coming due. We welcome now Dan Pickering. He's founder and chief investment officer of Pickering Energy Partners. So, Dan, thank you so much for being with us, because I must say I don't understand it. We knew that demand was down because of the pandemic. We knew there was something, a price war going on, but really under $2, is that enough to justify this kind of price?
Not long term, David. I think the issue here is we don't have a lot of storage capacity, and folks have to either sell that contract or deliver crude to Cushing, Oklahoma. So not enough storage right now. Folks are bailing out of that May contract. The real issue is that the out months, the June and July contract, are also under pressure because we got a supply and demand problem because of the virus.
How much of it's the United States? I mean, there's a big and growing difference between the WTI and Brent, right?
There is. So it's more of a U.S. problem than a global problem because we're the biggest supplier in the world, and we're overproducing right now, and our storage tanks are filling. So it's a bigger deal for us than a global contract, the Brent crude contract, because there's simply more places to store oil globally than there are here in the U.S.
How rapidly is supply adjusting to the reduction in demand? We had that price war between Saudi Arabia and Russia, but they, I guess, have kind of called that off. Are they getting the supply back down?
OPEC and Russia have pretty quickly shifted from fighting each other to sort of trying to survive, and so we've got a historic production cut from them, almost 10 million barrels a day, and that will kick in May 1st. And so we'll start to see global supplies come down because of voluntary curtailment starting in May. I think the bigger issue is nobody's making any money at these prices. And so you're seeing economic shut-ins here in the U.S. because people are losing money on a cash basis. And you're seeing these curtailments because of storage capacity being full. So we'll probably take 3 or 4 million barrels a day off of production here in the U.S. over the next 30 to 45 days because it's not making any money. You can't put it anywhere.
So essentially, as I understand it, whatever you can get for the oil is less than the variable cost, the actual increased incremental cost of getting out of the ground.
That's right. Cash costs of producing it and getting it to a pipeline probably run anywhere from, depending on where you're at, $5 to $15, maybe $20. And so with WTI prices quoted below that level, folks are losing money on a cash basis. Forget what it costs to drill the wells. Forget all those sub costs, just the physical production cost. You're losing cash. And so folks don't do that for very long. So the shut-ins are starting to happen.
Well, something's got to give sooner or later. Part of it will be, as you just said, there'll be shut-ins. We just stop producing nearly as much. But what else could be done? Could we expect more cuts out of OPEC Plus, as it were?
Yeah, very possible. If the Brent price continues to correct, we stay down here in the 20s for another month or two, we could see additional cuts from OPEC and Russia and other players. I think that they're probably waiting to see the impact of the low price on economic shut-ins before they take more steps. But you do whatever you've got to do to help support price at a certain point, and we're kind of getting there as it relates to kind of the whole global oil and gas business.
Dan, what do you make of the suggestion that perhaps the United States essentially start paying oil companies to keep the oil in the ground? I guess one way of thinking about it is they'd actually have the strategic petroleum reserve in the ground. They'd buy the oil and leave it there.
That strategic petroleum reserve is there already, meaning that oil is in the ground. Paying folks to not produce it, it would really be more about protecting jobs. One of the things that's coming in the oil patch is a huge amount of layoffs and potential structuring distress and bankruptcies amongst energy companies. So you wouldn't do it because you're afraid you won't have enough oil. You do it because you want to keep these companies solvent. I don't love it because I kind of think of the free market as solving this problem already, and it seems difficult to get that sort of through the Congress and paid for. But, desperate times call for desperate measures. So I'd be surprised if it happens, but not shocked.
Give us a sense, if you have it, of the level of unemployment we could be looking at, because it's not just the energy companies, it's all the services companies, all the ancillary companies as well. It could be a lot of jobs. Is that right?
It could be. So, you think about numbers that are in the high hundreds of thousands, if not million job impact from this as it rolls through. And so it's it's not trivial. We lost maybe 500,000 jobs in the last downturn, and this is going to be more significant. So it's a big number.
Yeah, at the same time, is there an opportunity here for somebody? I mean, the prices must be pretty darn low. So if somebody did have the wherewithal, the balance sheet, the cash, is this a buyer's market, as it were, for companies or for assets?
Absolutely. The distress that's going to come into this space means you're going to have, assets that get very cheap. We think there's clearly a very good long-term story for energy demand. We're not all going to drive electric vehicles tomorrow. So energy is not going away anytime in the next couple of decades. So these assets are going to get cheap, and the folks that are around to own them for the next cycle are going to make a lot of money. So almost so bad it's good if you've got cash and can step in and be a buyer over the next 18 months.
Yeah, fascinating. In the meantime, talk about the banks who have loaned money, particularly some of the shale producers. They must be coming under some stress right now.
They are. Banks are worried about their loans at prices at these levels. Typically, the collateral, the reserves in the ground, support those loans when oil prices are this low. If they stayed here for a long time, those will wind up being bad loans. Oil's probably not going to stay this bad for too long, and so I think the market's very concerned about the bad loans. What I'd say is maybe 10 or 15% of them wind up bad. It's not going to be a huge number.
Does this favor the big integrated oil companies or not so much?
Absolutely. The big guys, primarily because they've got the balance sheet, the staying power, they're going to be the ones scooping up these cheap assets, most likely. Not necessarily right now, but over the next 2 years. They've got the ability to step in and do deals either with their currency of stock or with cash. So absolutely supports them and favors them in an environment where liquidity is crunched.
At the same time, in a highly volatile stock market, you got to worry about that dividend. If they got back the dividend to get the cash, that might hurt them too.
Dividends, you've seen a number of energy companies cut their dividends. Actually, the market's rewarded that for the smaller companies. But
interesting. Okay, Dan Pickering, really appreciate you being with us today. That's Dan Pickering of Pickering Energy Partners. That's going to do it for Balance of Power for today. A very eventful day, and not least because of that oil price now down under $2 a barrel. I'm David Weston, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
Stay in touch with your loved ones with great phones at great prices from Tesco Mobile. Like the incredible iPhone 7 with advanced HD front camera. Perfect for video calling. For just $13.99 a month. That's our lowest ever price. Search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Ends 14th of June. Was £15.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements with Tesco Mobile required. Subject to status. Phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
The 2020 NFL Draft is on ESPN Radio on TuneIn. Starting Thursday, April 23rd, ESPN Radio has you covered with live coverage, discussions, and analysis of every pick from every round. Be there when the future stars of the NFL find their home and when your team selects the players that will shape their future for seasons to come. Don't miss the biggest event of the offseason with ESPN Radio on TuneIn.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Want to know a great way to discover the latest and greatest sports audio on TuneIn? It's easy. Just make sure push notifications are enabled on your phone to receive recommendations of sports talk radio and podcasts, along with important breaking news updates.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Get your MLB fix with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Fill your seventh inning stretch with the Ringer MLB Show.
I just can't get over it. It's like, oh, well, Jeter Downs. Didn't realize he was a top. Like, my dad is drinking the Kool-Aid on this. He's like, Mookie was going to leave. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know that.
Slide into second with the Starting Nine podcast.
Nolan Arenado slides right into the top spot for favorite baseball player. Active in the league right now. It is a pleasure to be sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is we've been waiting a long time for this. We actually, in terms of like active
Round the Bases with the Statcast podcast.
Ways of going about it. I picked third, so in some ways it made it easier for me. Mike just took a couple of picks. Mike took Barry Bonds, who I think was kind of the obvious guy to take number one. Not only
catch these and more MLB podcasts right here on TuneIn.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Business Week. Insight from the reporters and editors who bring you America's most trusted business magazine. Plus, global business, finance, and tech news as it happens. Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Messer and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
Live from New York and New Jersey, streaming on YouTube. It is Monday, April 20th, 2020. Carol Messer along with Jason Kelly. And Jason, we're hearing talk of more federal aid likely coming, as are more warnings about reopening the economy too soon. We will hear from several leaders on lines, including the CEO of Intercontinental Hotels. He is Keith Barr. We're also going to talk to the president and CEO of the hospital that has been dealing with the virus from day one. And that's just a few names.
Absolutely. A packed show to be sure. Also keeping a very close eye on oil. WTI trading below $1 a barrel. Mind-blowing in a lot of ways. The implications for that go all through the global economy, an economy in which lots of other things are happening too. Let's get an update on everything that's happening in the business world. For that, we turn to Charlie Pellet.
All right. Hi, thank you very much, and happy Monday to you both. Got to begin with crude. Last quote there. WTI, West Texas Intermediate, 59 cents a barrel, down 97%. A story we're watching for you here. Bloomberg News. The Dow, the S&P lower, NASDAQ higher. Mixed Monday here to kick things off with the S&P down 21, a drop of 0.7%. The Dow down 298 points now, down 1.2%. NASDAQ's been swinging between gains and losses on the plus side now, up by 4. That is a gain of about 0.1%. 10-year up 230 seconds with a yield of 0.63%. We've got gold up $10 the ounce now at $16.93, higher by 0.6%. Again, last quote on crude, West Texas Intermediate, 46 cents a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Let's set the Business Week agenda right off the bat here, Carol. We do have a lot to get to today, but trying to make sense of where the equity trade is and making sense of some of those headlines that Charlie just read. Let's get into it. Sarah Ponczak joins us, cross-asset reporter for Bloomberg, joining us on the phone from Florida. Dave Wilson, a little closer to home. He is joining us from New Jersey, stocks editor, of course, and the author of the chart and stock of the day. Dave, set the tone for us here. Is oil driving the trade? What's sort of underneath what we're seeing on the equity side?
Well, it's a piece of it, but it's not the whole puzzle. I mean, you look at the 11 main industry groups in the S&P 500, and you see, even with what's happening in the oil markets, energy isn't the worst performer. You've got to look at utilities and real estate, the two sort of interest-sensitive areas that really jump to mind when you're looking at these 11 main industry groups in the index. They're both down more. So it kind of tells you, just how much concern there is about where rates are headed here.
Also, a reminder how much energy's been beaten up, right, Dave?
Oh, that's already a big piece of it, no question. And it all kind of fits together in that sense. But I'll tell you, there are some interesting tales, even within energy at this point. I mean, yeah, the oil companies are down, but Halliburton, Oil services, they came out, talked about how demand was going to drop sharply this quarter and remain weak at least through the rest of the year. Shares are up 3.2% as we speak. Now, their first quarter earnings and revenue beat estimates, but, there's so much focus on cash at this point, you have to wonder what the real story is. But it does kind of jump out on a day when, stocks are mostly lower here.
But mostly higher from their lows. And Sarah Ponczek, come on in on that, because you and Vildana Hajrik have a great story on the Bloomberg about 5 individuals, pros on the market, who say that the new bull market has actually legs. What do they say?
So it seems like it's more difficult to find bulls at this juncture, because I feel like typically the pessimists are louder, but there are plenty of people who are optimistic on the market right now. And we spoke to many of them last week ahead of the weekend, and they cite many different reasons as to why they're bullish right now. Now, Sean Nodden, he's over at RBC, for example, he says that if you're a short-term trader right now, maybe hold off, maybe there will be a better opportunity. But he says that for anyone who has a time horizon that is a bit further out, he says, for one, yes, the coronavirus seems to be making its way. Headlines have been better. For one, at the same time, he says that interest rates are extremely low. The pessimists might say they're low for a reason, but that's a debate for another time. And to him, he sees that there's reason with the S&P 500 around 2,800 that actually looks very attractive. Other people obviously point to the Fed, the amount of stimulus that we have seen, and the Fed saying that they'll essentially do whatever it takes to support the economy. So there are bulls out there, I will say. But I do want to come back to the discussion you were just having about oil, because as we speak, oil's trading, WTI crude oil is trading at 37 cents a barrel. And at one point...
Wait, 37 cents a barrel.
It was at 59 cents just a couple minutes ago. I mean, that shows you how fast it's going down.
At 153 on the dot, we hit 1 cent a barrel. And the CME did say that the contract could trade negative, which is pretty unbelievable when you think about it. But there is a technical factor at play that you really have to take into account, and it's probably why we're not seeing energy prices really being hit much further too, and that's the fact that we're dealing with an expiration of a contract. So the futures contract for oil right now, we're trading on the May contract. The rollover is tomorrow. So if you were to look at the June contract, it's still trading above $20 a barrel. So where we are really seeing the most effect is in the May contract, and that's because it's really hard to find people right now who actually want to own physical barrels of oil. When you have no demand or hardly any demand for oil at the time, usually people who would want to own physical barrels of oil, like an airline or an oil refiner, they don't want it right now. So you can't find any buyers for physical oil right now.
Well, that's a really good point, Sarah. And how much also we've done the stories on the terminal about that there's no place to put it anymore.
Exactly. It's very difficult. Storage is coming at a premium, which is why when you look at WTI trading at 1 cent a barrel, and actually Evercore ISI did point out that some physical oil prices are already trading negative at a few delivery points, and that's because storage is a burden. So you might have to pay for that now at this point in time, which is pretty unbelievable to think about.
So, Dave, come back in here, and this will tee up Sarah for a quick comment as well. Earnings, how much are they driving all of this, and what are you seeing so far as you try and make sense both of the numbers but also the tone and substance of what CEOs are saying?
I don't know if people are paying all that much attention to earnings, frankly. It's all about the balance sheet. It's all about cash. You take a company like DuPont that lined up $3 billion in financing for the next year, and its shares are up 4.7%. So, that's the thing that's really in focus here. And beyond that, people come pointing out just how many companies are not bothering to give investors a sense of how they see the rest of the year. Earlier today, Bank of America out with a report, 80 companies in the S&P 500 have, shall we say, withdrawn guidance for 2020. So it really becomes a matter of counting the cash now and maybe looking to the results next year.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, right? And you do wonder, and I guess the longer the shutdown goes on, that visibility, it's just not there. And we're going to be talking to the CEO of Intercontinental. We're going to be talking to various individuals, leaders in their own fields to see what kind of visibility they have at this point, Jason. And also, what does it mean to reopen the economy realistically? Like, we need to get a handle of that, because that will play into economic growth and ultimately earnings for all of the industries that are out there.
All right, Sarah Ponczak, 30 seconds. You've got a story on the Bloomberg about earnings. What's your take?
So hitting off of what Dave said, it's pretty unbelievable. We've hardly seen any companies actually give guidance. However, last week, according to Credit Suisse, 9 of those companies had given guidance. Well, when they actually reported earnings, the time that you would get updates, they actually withdrew the guidance. So the few companies that we had actually had some visibility, it seemed, not anymore. And that's to be expected going forward, likely through the season.
Amazing. These are, Carol, you look forward to earnings season, and now
it's like a
one more
drinking
thing
game.
not to
Like
look
every
forward
time
to.
we're shocked here, like we'd be just on our butts right now because it's just been one shocking headline after another.
Crude below zero. That's the latest shocking headline.
Exactly. All right,
on our butts. That's Carol. That's Carol Masters' quote for today. All right, Sarah Ponczak, thank you so much. Cross Asset Report joining us on the phone from Florida. Dave Wilson, you'll be back with us a little bit later on with your chart and stock of the day. Carol,
let's just quickly do the Bloomberg Business Week bite of the day. One number that tells us a lot. Today's number, you've heard it a lot. 10 million. Shake Shack will return its entire 10 million loan from the U.S. government. The company's leaders putting out a statement amid a lot of criticism over who got access to the funds from the government that's supposed to be for small business, Jason.
Yeah, we may talk a little bit about that later on. In the meantime, let's get to Bob Moon. He's got world and national headlines. Hey there, Bob.
Jason, thank you very much. Well, oil has plunged to near a penny a barrel as the coronavirus pandemic ravages global economies, threatening to erase an entire decade of jobs and wipe out hundreds of billions of dollars from company valuations. Industrial and economic activity is grinding to a halt as governments around the globe extend shutdowns due to the swift spread of the coronavirus. Oil has faced its own knock-on effects, with the market massively oversupplied and nowhere to put physical barrels of crude. Democratic leaders and the Trump administration are trying to finalize an agreement on the next dose of federal spending to prop up the economy. Larry Kudlow, the president's economic advisor, says an agreement is close. Novartis will run a U.S. study of the malaria drug hydroxychloroquine. The medicine has been hyped as a potential treatment for coronavirus. General Motors and Ford's finance arms likely face multi-billion-dollar losses linked to the dramatic drop in used vehicle prices. According to JP Chase analysts, prices are falling faster and steeper than JP Morgan was expecting. Global news 24 hours a day. And on Bloomberg Quick Take, I'm Bob Moon. Carol, Jason, back to you.
All right, Bob, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Check in with you throughout the show, the next few hours on those world and national headlines. In the meantime, Carol, getting ready for the first in a series of conversations. I think if we were trying to map out a theme here for the day, it's really about where we go forward. Yeah. And the travel industry is right at the tip of the spear, right? I mean, we think about it, talk about it all the time.
Well, we were having conversations even at home about, okay, what I anticipate my work travel load will be like when we get back to normal. We were talking about family vacations and traveling and, we get on a plane kind of thing. We're going to have the CEO of Intercontinental Hotels, Keith Barr. They are global, all over the world. And prior to his current role, Keith also spent 4 years as CEO of IHG's Greater China business. So I am curious to see what he is seeing over in Asia and how they are coming back, because I think that really will help us figure out maybe how we come back here in the United States and really in the rest of the world. So curious to hear from him about what he has to say. I caught up with him at the Breakaway London session last November. We are in a very, very different environment.
Yeah, that feels like 100 years ago, doesn't it?
Totally. And then, so the hotel industry has been hurt really severely, and so has the restaurant business. And we've got the chef and owner of 11 Madison Park. They have really transformed what they are doing. They're now feeding others. They're looking to save restaurants. They're looking to save their workers. And what they have been doing is pretty remarkable as well.
And let's not forget, this has been named the best restaurant in the world.
No, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's just incredible.
And, it's a place you and I have both been. And, I mean, it's a phenomenal location. The food, obviously, some of the chefs have gone on, who have worked there have gone on to do